Your brain is not a fixed machine. For most of history, people believed the brain you were born with was the brain you were stuck with. That belief was wrong. Neuroscience has shown that the brain keeps changing shape, structure, and function based on what you repeatedly do, think, and feel. This ability is called neuroplasticity, and it means happiness is not just a mood that visits you randomly, it is something you can train, the same way you train a muscle. Today we are going to look at 4 specific habits that have been shown to physically change the structure of the brain in ways that increase happiness, and we are going to explain exactly why they work, using real examples so you can see how this plays out in ordinary life. The first habit is gratitude practice, and it is more powerful than most people realize. When you deliberately think about something you are thankful for, your brain activates the medial prefrontal cortex, an area involved in decision-making and value judgment. Do this often enough, and that activation becomes easier to trigger, meaning your brain starts noticing good things automatically instead of you having to force it. Think of a man who starts writing down 3 things he is grateful for every night before bed. At first, it feels forced, maybe even silly, but after a few weeks, he notices he is catching himself appreciating small things during the day, a good cup of coffee, a text from a friend, before he even sits down to write. That's not a coincidence. His brain has built a stronger pathway for scanning the world for positives, the same way a hiker who walks the same trail every day wears a visible path into the grass. Studies on gratitude journaling have found increased activity in reward-related brain regions that lasted for months after the practice, which tells us this is not a temporary trick, it is structural change. The second habit is regular physical movement, and this one surprises people because they assume exercise is only about the body. In reality, movement is one of the fastest ways to change brain chemistry. Physical activity increases a protein called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, often shortened to BDNF, which acts almost like fertilizer for brain cells. It helps grow new neurons and strengthens the connections between existing ones, particularly in the hippocampus, the area responsible for memory and emotional regulation. Consider a woman dealing with a stressful job who starts taking a 20-minute walk every afternoon. She's not trying to lose weight or build muscle, she just needed a break. Within a few weeks, she notices she is less reactive to small annoyances at work, she sleeps better, and her thinking feels less foggy. This lines up with what the research shows. Movement lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, while also boosting serotonin and dopamine, the chemicals directly tied to mood. The brain does not distinguish between exercise for fitness and exercise for mental health. It responds the same way either way, which means even a short daily walk is doing real physiological work on your emotional stability. The third habit is meaningful social connection. And this is one science keeps confirming again and again. Humans are wired for connection at a biological level, not just an emotional one. When you have a genuine conversation with someone you trust, your brain releases oxytocin, a hormone that reduces the fear response coming from the amygdala. This is why talking to a close friend after a hard day can make the problem feel smaller, even if nothing about the problem changed. Picture 2 coworkers who make it a habit to eat lunch together, instead of eating alone at their desks scrolling on their phones. Over time, that daily 10-minute conversation becomes a stabilizing point in their day. Their nervous systems calm down around each other because trust has been built through repetition. Research on loneliness has found that chronic isolation physically shrinks gray matter in areas tied to emotional regulation, while consistent connection protects and strengthens those same regions. This tells us relationships are not a luxury for emotional well-being, they are a biological requirement, and the brain treats them that way. The fourth habit is mindfulness, or focused breathing practice. And this is where the evidence becomes especially concrete, because researchers have literally measured brain scans before and after. Just 8 weeks of regular mindfulness practice, often only 10 to 20 minutes a day, has been shown to increase gray matter density in the hippocampus and decrease gray matter in the amygdala, the brain's threat detection center. In plain terms, that means the brain becomes better at learning in processing emotion while becoming less reactive to stress and fear. Think of someone who starts every morning with 5 minutes of slow, focused breathing before checking their phone. It sounds small, almost too small to matter, but that person is training their nervous system to start the day from a calm baseline instead of an anxious one. And that baseline carries into how they handle traffic, emails, and unexpected problems for the rest of the day. The brain adapts to whatever state you practice most, so if you practice calm on purpose, calm becomes your default, rather than something you only find by accident. What ties these 4 habits together is a simple principle. Repetition shapes structure. The brain strengthens whatever pathway you use most often, whether that pathway leads towards anxiety and reactivity or towards gratitude, resilience, and calm. None of these habits require dramatic life changes or hours of free time. A few minutes of gratitude, a short walk, one real conversation, and a few minutes of quiet breathing can, over weeks and months, physically reshape the brain toward a baseline of greater happiness. The people who feel consistently happier are rarely luckier than everyone else. They have simply built different neural pathways through consistent small actions, and that is something available to anyone willing to start.